All right, let's go ahead and go to Void Linux because we're going to install Void Linux today. This has nothing to do with systemd. Well, actually, it does. What I would say is more people have flocked to Void, and I figured I'd do a quick install from scratch. Some people call this installing the hard way. This is the only way I like to install because I like control. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Actually, here we go. So enter username is root, and then we're going to do void Linux as our username. We're going to do lsblk, so know what we're working with. I have NVMe 0 and 1. If you notice, I have some weird partitions going on there. We're not going to use that. We're going to do wipefs-a dev NVMe 0 and 1. Ensure you've entered this correctly, because once you do this, you wipe your partitions. And now that my partitions are wiped, what we want to do next is create new partitions. So cf disk, and it helps if I type that correctly, dev NVMe 0 and 1, and then hit enter. And let me zoom out, and we're going to select GPT as the label, and we're going to create a few partitions here. Now, for this setup, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with 2 partitions, kind of similar to what you've seen, but a little bit different. We're going to do new. We're going to do 1 gig for our boot partition, and then we're going to do the rest. So we hit enter twice for our core partition. So we'll change the first partition, go to type, and we're going to switch this over to EFI system. Once we're done, we go to write and type in yes and hit enter, and then we're going to go ahead and quit. And now that we're here, we could do lsblk, and you notice that now we have 1 gig instead of the 100 megs, and we could begin to format these. So to format, we're going to do mkfs.vfat-f32-n to give it a name, and we're going to call this our boot partition. You could call this EFI if you want as well, and then we could do dev /NVMe 0 and 1 P1 and hit enter. Now, one thing I've noticed is I'm not in bash mode, so I don't have auto completion. And so I'm going to switch to bash mode. And I probably should have done this as the first step. So bin bash, and now we have auto completion. So that allows me to go up and complete and stuff like that. But with that said, let's continue with the second partition, which is going to be our root, home, and so forth. And for that, let's just do a basic butterfs. So we do make fs.butterfs-l. -l. We'll do void because we're running void on this one. Dev NVMe 0 and 1 P2, hit enter. And now we have our 2 core partitions. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to begin to mount these, but we need to create our sub volumes first. So we're going to do mount dev NVMe 0 and 1 P2, and we're going to mount that over to just mount. And we're going to create sub-volume. So butterfs, SU for sub-volume, CR for create. You could type sub-volume and create too if you want. And then we're going to say that we want a few. So we want our root partition. We also want our home partition. And I'm not going to do snapshots. I'm not going to do any of the vars. Like I said, I just want a basic one here. But if you want to create more sub-volumes, you're more than welcome to create more sub-volumes. But I'm not going to be doing that for this specific scenario because I only care about my root and my home partitions. So now that these are done, I'm going to go ahead and mount L for lazy and do mount. And we're going to remount these, but with proper options. So let's begin to do mount, and we're going to do -o, and we're going to do sub vol for volume equals, and then we'll do at root. And so our root partition is going to have no A time. We're going to say discard equals async. And then the last one we're going to do is compress equals cstd1. And I believe this is now the default, but I like to still type it in because I'm a creature of habit. And we're going to do this over at dev NVMe 0 and 1 P2 because that's the partition that has that volume. And this is being mounted over at /mount. And then we're going to go ahead and hit enter. Now we want to do our home partition. We're going to do up, Control A, change, so scroll to the right and change root to home. And then we'll do Control E, change this to /home. And then we're going to add -- make dir, so we can also make the directory as we're mounting. And then all we need to do now is our boot partition, and that's going to be mount no -o, sorry, dev NVMe 0 and 1 P1, and that's going to be over mount boot. And if I do, oh, forgot to include mkdir. Okay, and now that I have that, I'll do an lsblk, and everything looks good to me. And so now we're ready to begin to bootstrap our system. So first things first is we're going to create a new directory. That's going to be mkdir-p, and this is going to be over at the mount, and we're going to say var, and then we're going to say db xbps/keys. Hit enter, and then we want to copy from a similar location, but on our current live setup. So it will be just var db xbps keys, and then in here there's two keys that we want to grab. So we're just going to do star, and we're going to copy that to the directory we created. So mount var db xbps keys, and hit enter. And actually, I hope that worked. Yeah, I did. I forgot to add the /, so I was worried. All right, so now that we have that, we could begin to install. So to do this, we're going to do xbps install -s, so it can sync up and grab everything from all the latest package data. And then we're going to do $R to say, hey, our repo, and our repo is going to be at https://repo-default.voidlinux.org current. And we're going to do a $r to say our root is over here at mount. We're going to do base system, and because I'm going to be using Btrfs, I like to do Btrfs progs, and then I also like to do Lemona here. You don't need Btrfs progs, but it's just good to have it in case you need it. So it's just, I guess, a habit of mine. And then we're going to use NeoVim, and I think this is going to be good here. I'm not going to be doing anything else for the time being. Maybe for the second video I will. Helps if I type things correctly, so I apologize for that. So let's go ahead and fix this typo, and hit enter, and go ahead and download, and then I'll come back once this is done. All right, for the most part, we've already installed. Now the couple things we have going on is we need to ensure that we set up our FS table, and then configure our setup and create users and stuff like that. But for the most part, we are done installing. So what we're going to do next for our configuration is we're going to do xgen-u, and then we're going to do /mount, and then send that over to mount etc fs tab, and that creates our FS table, file system table if you want to call it that. And then after that, the next thing we want to do now is we want to show root in there, or change root. So xchroot, and then we're going to do /mount /bin bash. And the second set is just to say, hey, when you show root or change root in here, go ahead and go into bash mode. So hit enter. And so now that we're here, what we want to do is we're going to set up our user. So let's go ahead and give our root user a password. And the password for our root user is going to be a very nice and strong password. And because I'm actually going to use this machine, I'm actually trying to give one. Actually, you know what? Let's cheat. Strong, secure password. I use many keys, I promise. Okay, so now we're going to create our user. So user add, and we're going to say JTech, and then we're going to use mod-a uppercase G. We're going to do wheel, and because I'm going to be working with network stuff, with Wi-Fi and whatnot, I'm going to use network. And then once I have, actually no, this guy's not going to use network. Wheel is more than enough for this guy. And so we're only going to give wheel access. If I need to do more, we could do more later, and ensure that you enter your username. So JTech. And now that I have all of these, the next thing we need to do is give a password to JTech. And so we're going to use a very strong, secure password that's not the same as the root user. And now that I have this, we are ready to begin to do the rest of the items. So let's begin by setting up our bootloader. And so actually, no, let's not do, we'll do the boot loading for last. What we want to do first is we want to start creating some of our configuration settings. And so I'll show you what void requests, and then I'll show you how I do it. So if we go to nvim etc, and then go to rc.conf, you see that it tells you here some of the things that you need to set. So it tells you about the host name, but it tells you that it's preferred elsewhere, same with the time zone and so forth. So we're not going to break away from this file, and we're not going to write in it. What we want to do instead is we're going to go back in there, but a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to do echo, And then this is my sandbox. So I'm gonna call this machine sandbox. And we're gonna send this to Etsy, and we're gonna do hostname first. So hostname is set up. Then we want to do our time zone. So we're gonna do echo local time, and we're gonna send that over to Etsy hardware clock. And then we want to now symlink our zone info. So to do that, we're going to do ln-sf, and we're going to do USR share zone info. I'm in the America, so I'll do America, and then I'm in the Denver time zone, so we'll do Denver. And we're going to set this to Etsy local time. Ensure that you're selecting the time zone that is for you. If you don't know what goes in there, you could do tab, and it will. If you're in Bash, you could do tab, and it'll go ahead and auto-complete that for you. So local time is where we're saving this to. Now that we have this, we do still want to configure our rc.conf, but for that one, what we're going to do is we're just going to echo. And so what I do is single quote key map equals, and then in double quotes I put US because that's the key map that I use. Use the one that you use for yourself, and then with the single quotes, and we're going to send that over to Etsy rc.conf because I don't use any of the other settings there. Hit enter. So the next one you want to do is you want to do your libc configs, and so to do that you're going to do env Etsy defaults, and then it's going to be libc locales. And in here, you're going to have a couple different ones. You want to find the one that is appropriate to you for your region and country and so forth. I know mine. So same thing. I don't put it in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another echo, and we're going to put quotes, and we're going to say en_US, so English US .utf-8 space UTF-8. Double quotes to end this, and we're going to send this to Etsy default lib locales and hit enter. Once this is done, you want to reconfigure your XBPS to always use this as locale. So XBPS reconfigure, and then you're going to do -F, and you're going to say G libc locales, hit enter. And once this is done, we are now pretty much done. We've created our user, we've did our configurations. The only thing I have left is to configure our bootloader for Lemona. And so to do that, we're going to do first we're going to do make directory, and we're going to do -P, and we're going to do boot all caps EFI all caps boot. And then we want to copy the EFI boot file, and we're going to get that from the Lemona configs. So we do CP, and then USR share Lemona, and then we're going to do boot x64, and I don't know why that was giving me issues. Boot x64.efi, and we're going to copy that over to our boot FE all caps, and then boot, and then that's good there. All right, so now that we have this, let's go over to our boot directory, and in here we have a few files that I want to know what they are, and those are the VM Linus, which is our kernel, and initram fs, which is our initram. And so the way we're going to grab these is we're going to do ls, and then we're going to send this over to /boot FE, and then all caps boot, and then lemona.conf, hit enter. And the last thing I need is I need the UUID for the partition where my root is. And so if you notice, this is in P2. So to grab that, we're going to do block ID. And we only care about the a few things. Let me hit block ID so I can show you. So this shows you all the different drives, and it has a couple different values. So I'm gonna hit up. All I care about is going to be the SSID. So -S UUID, and all I care about the one is from the P2. So dev NVMe 0 and 1 P2, and we're gonna send that over to Etsy. Sorry, not Etsy. /boot all caps EFI all caps boot, and then lemona.conf, hit and enter. And so now that we have this, the only thing we need to do now is go in here and actually begin to modify this file. So nvim boot all caps FE all caps boot lemona.conf. And so in here, what we want to do is let me zoom out here. What we want to do is we want to use only these two files. So we'll do 2dd to erase. So let's do Shift O to create a line on top. timeout, and we're going to say 5, and then we're going to do /, and this is going to be enter the void, because we're going to enter the void when we select this. And the kernel that we're using for this is 61280, and this is just a habit of mine because that's usually how I've always see these, and so that's kind of why I go with that. So the next thing we want to do here now is we want to, let's see here, we want to do spaces and do protocol Linux, and then we want to start declaring kind of like what we have for kind of like our setup here. So what we want to do is we're going to do kernel path, and then we say, hey, this is on the boot drive, and the kernel is this guy here. So we're going to grab this and paste it, and then oh, I just noticed that we didn't get our block ID, so we're gonna have to exit and grab that, but that's okay. So we want to do is module path, and then boot, and that guy there, and we need our command line. But to do our command line, we do need our UUIDs. Let me exit this guy here real quick, and then zoom this way. Let's be okay, and me. Oh. User error NVMe 0 N1P2, and then we're gonna do this to boot all caps FE all caps boot limina.conf nvim boot FE boot limina.conf, and then in here now we have our UUID, so we're gonna do command line. And then we say root equals UUID equals, and it's this guy here. We're going to do root flags equals subvol equals at root RW for rewrite. We're going to do log level equals 3. I'm not going to include quiet. Actually, yeah, let's include quiet while we're at it. And now we are done. It took a little bit longer because I had to troubleshoot, and make sure we say that correctly. All right, so I did have to troubleshoot. I'm gonna keep this in the video because I do believe this is the part. I'm human, I'm gonna make mistakes. And so we're gonna exit here. And after we exit, we're gonna go ahead and unmount -L for lazy, -R for recursive, /mount, and that should unmount everything. And once we're done, we're gonna go ahead and reboot. And then I will come back once this is done rebooting. This is our limina, says enter the void. We'll let this kind of launch on its own. And once it's done, we are back. So we'll go ahead and log in with our user and with our password. And now we are done. And so the one thing you want to do, because right now, if you notice, you don't have an IP. If you do IPA, you'll notice we don't have one. So we want to enable this. Now I forgot something in my setup. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to our root user. That's not the password I chose. And what we want to do is we want to modify our sudo file. So we'll do nvim etc sudoers, hit enter /wheel, find the second one where it says all equals all gcc, and then changes that, and then we're going to save and use a shebang at the end so it could save. And now that we are done, we should be able to exit and go back to JTech as our user. And now we have admin rights. You could do it with the root user. I'm not a fan of using root. I'd rather use sudo or do as. But with that said, let's go ahead and enable our internet. That's going to be a sudo ln for link, s for symlink, f to force it in case it already exists. And we're going to do etc sv for services, and dhcpcd. And then we want to move this over to, or not over, sorry, we want to link it over to var service, and we want to make sure you end with the /, so that way the dhcpcd is linked inside of that folder. Hit enter. With great power comes great responsibility. Make sure that you enter your password correctly. And once this is done, we have our DHCPCD. And so if I do an IPA, you'll notice that I'm starting to get an IP. So I got my INET 6. And if I kind of wait a little bit longer and do it again, now I have my IP4. And so to test this out, we'll do a ping to google.com, and that's working. And then we'll do a ping to, helps if I spell these 1.1.1. And so we'll go ping Cloudflare, and everything is working. So we are done with our install. The next thing I'll do on the next videos is begin to kind of set up for Mango. But before we leave, we need to do one more thing to do. So that is my video. Thanks for watching. I will catch you guys on the next one.